myself last. All right, welcome everybody to my channel. I have been excited about this for quite some time now, because I want to get into some stranger things in our world, like not just the show Stranger Things, but I want to get into some crazy things happening in our reality. I actually have a page of notes here, and I'm super organized tonight. But first, I want to invite my friends to talk and say hello, Jessica and me. I think that's Tyler, but I don't know if we're going by me tonight.
But I actually forgot to change that back. It was supposed to just be a joke.
Well, it wasn't that funny.
Well, it was. There you go. Fixed it.
I'm just messing with you. Oh my God. Okay, so tonight this is for fun. This is really just meant. It's not meant to be scary. It's meant to really tie in a lot of what I'm seeing with my clients, with my children, especially not my children, but the children that I work with, and the stranger things and anomalies that are happening in our world right now that also coincide with movies that we're seeing. So I want to get into Stranger Things, the Montauk program, other government programs. I want to talk about the Gifted and Talented program and children in general. All the movies and disclosure that's coming out is off the charts. Stranger Things, I cannot believe how accurate this show is that I have seen through sessions with my children, not my children, children that I've worked with, that I would see an episode like a season later. And I've seen that before in a session with a child that showed me something. So it's blowing my mind how accurate it is. I don't know if any of the viewers here have seen the show The Institute, but it's another one that I highly recommend. We can talk about that as well. And then we definitely need to get into the mall dreams, because that's huge right now. The screen memories, the parallel realities. So I wanted to talk first about the current pulse in humanity. I mean, I think we can all agree it's absolutely chaotic right now.
Yes.
The children that I'm working with, the anxiety is off the charts. I have never worked with so many children at the same time who are having manic episodes, severe depression, severe anxiety, suicidal thoughts, animal communication sessions that I'm doing. The animals are telling me that they are feeling like they are literally being microwaved. They're not having the suicidal thoughts like the voices to God technology, but they are feeling the energy attacks. But I also feel at the same time, there is this huge realignment going and an adjustment. So depending on where you are in your density of consciousness, it could be quite a chaotic time, but it can also be a very activating and exciting time right now. It depends on how you look at it and your mindset. And so tonight, I want to make this fun, but we are going to talk about some serious topics, but how it ties into where we are as a collective right now. So thank you both for joining me tonight. And thank you for all of you that are watching and will continue to watch, hopefully, for the whole time. So first, I want to talk about Montauk. I know everybody watching this already knows about Montauk. We're not talking about anything new, but the correlation between Stranger Things and Montauk. And Jessica was telling us beforehand, and I'd love for you to tell us, you've been there before and what experience you have. And then I want to talk about some of my children's experiences, remembering being in those programs. And then I'd love Tyler to chime in as well. So let's just start off with the whole Montauk subject.
Oh, wow. Yes. Well, I had the privilege of going with a group of Montauk Project survivors to Montauk about 2 years ago. And James Rink was part of that group. And rest in peace to James. I learned so much from him while we were there. But we went to Montauk to it's actually an old, I think it's an Air Force base. It's called Camp Hero, and that is where this program actually took place. And it just so happened that we were with a lot of the survivors of this project. But I have two very good friends of mine who live up there on Long Island. This is on Long Island, New York, at the very northern tip of it. And Long Island Bigfoot Mike is his name, and also Brian Minnick. Brian Minnick is a historian of Camp Hero and knows every inch of that place like the back of his hand. He's had family that's lived there. I was actually quite shocked when we got there, because I thought that there was going to be a Demogorgon downtown Montauk. Okay, I thought there would be some kind of like statue or some kind of acknowledgement of Stranger Things at Montauk by the ocean. It's a beautiful place. We stayed in a beautiful home at an Airbnb while we were there, but there was no mention of it. It's actually quite the stain, from what I was told, for the residents who live up there in Montauk, because of the severity of like the kidnappings that were happening up there with their children, and the torture. I mean, just it was really horrible things that were going on. A lot of experimentation, teleportation, time travel, all the things you see on Stranger Things, the TV show. They were doing that, but much worse. They didn't actually show the torture and how bad it got. Okay, out there, and so actually when we went, I was actually a little bit worried that it was going to be really traumatic to be there with people that were part of those programs. Everybody kind of, getting those feelings back up and not knowing how I was going to be able to process that, But like I said, I was actually meeting some friends of mine who are, one is a cryptid field researcher like myself. We are Bigfoot enthusiasts and researchers. And they do have a Bigfoot at Camp Hero called Junior. That was part of that Montauk project. I'm not sure if they're trying to compare like the Demogorgon to Junior. I don't really know. I'm not sure how that works. But Junior is the Bigfoot there on that island, and so, or at that Camp Hero. We actually had some interactions with that Bigfoot. They actually got it on video while we were there, as a matter of fact. But Brian was able to take us around when we got there and show us every nook and cranny of the Camp Hero, where the underground bunkers are, where things have been filled in with concrete, the radar tower. We had a lot of strange things that happened to us while we were there, including some weird mind Coogie stuff that happened. You're not supposed to break in, I guess you say, like slide through the fence to get to the radar tower. If you know from Stranger Things, the TV show, they do have like a radar tower and stuff. Well, this is the real radar tower at Camp Hero. That's what they're basing that off of. And you're not supposed to go in there. I'm not saying if I did or not. I will not incriminate myself. Okay. But anyways, when we went there, the security guard actually showed up at Montauk, and when he pulled up to like run us off the area, half of our group saw a Caucasian man with a ponytail. The other half of the group saw an African American man, and we were all standing there together, seeing the same person.
Wow!
So completely different descriptions. That's just one of the strange things that happened to us while we were there. But I'm just saying, strange things still happen there to this day, we were actually, we did like some land clearing, like the spiritual stuff to try to kind of heal the land and to heal everybody that was there. And it was a beautiful experience. But ultimately, long story short, we did go there because of a 20-year biorhythmic portal that opens up there at Camp Hero every 20 years, where the USS Eldridge is said to reappear. Mm-hmm. That's from the Philadelphia experiment. If you guys are familiar with that. Mm-hmm. And so we were there for that. It was really odd because the morning that it was supposed to show up, there was a really dense fog that was unnatural that showed up where we couldn't even see the ocean where this thing was supposed to show up. But yet James Rink was out in the boat with some other of our friends, and they did report seeing green and blue lightning over the ocean that day. But we could not see the ocean. We couldn't see what was going on out there. They only reported seeing lightning that was green and blue. So it was an interesting experience. We had a lot of other stuff that happened out there, but yeah, it's actually something that the locals do not discuss over there. Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a reason why they don't discuss it, for many reasons. But Tyler, go ahead. Did you want to say something?
Oh, no, I was just, I understand the Montauk, we've interviewed some of the survivors and we know some of them, obviously, and Stranger Things does a good job of depicting that. But like you said, it's way worse. And I don't think it's stopped. In fact, I know Sherri has, been, like you just said, you were dealing with the kids that you deal with now are experiencing symptoms similar to mind control, MK Ultra, voice of God type of being at the receiving end of that type of stuff. So I know that still happens even out here where I live in Sedona. You hear all these rumors about even similar experiments being ran on children in the school here, even just the town in general. And there's a lot more. It's like I always say, a world within a world. Like, this stuff is like existing right beneath our noses, and we just don't know unless you know what to look for, or like, if you have the wherewithal or the self-awareness to understand that the symptoms you're having aren't natural. I think there's a lot more here that needs to be investigated. And I know, Sherri, you have tons of notes to go through, so I'll just turn it back to you.
Well, no, I mean, I don't want to monopolize the whole time. That's why I have you guys here. But one of the things that I think is interesting is the timing of this disclosure, right? Because if you guys remember, the first Stranger Things episode, season rather, came out. I don't remember. I didn't write it down, but there was a long time in between the first and the second season, so much so that the kids clearly grew a lot. And I just feel like there's a reason for that. And I think a lot of this has to do with timing and disclosure and what humanity was ready for. And I feel like back then it was almost like an introduction to just to give us a little bit. But now we're seeing a lot, why now? Why this holiday season in 2025 at the cusp of a very clear spiritual war going on, this 11th hour? Why now are they disclosing so much more in this season than they have ever done before? And they're spreading it out. So obviously we don't know everything that's happened. And no spoiler alerts. My daughter's already told me what's going to happen, even though I told her not. These kids need to stay off TikTok. But there's another show called, this is the one I wanted to show you guys. This show is called The Institute, and I started watching it. I think I actually remember texting maybe Lily about it. I was like, "Oh my God, you gotta watch this show," and it's very similar, where they are in a town. I think it's a Canadian town, and they basically kidnap children, and they take them to this facility, and it's all about telekinesis and teleportation, and just ESP in general. And the purpose of this place is to basically, let me see if I can, they connect these children to these virtual VR reality type of kind of, it's like an AI machine. I think it's basically like a machine. And they can remote view and remote influence that go in the past and basically change events, so their mindset in the show and how they explain it is that these children are being sacrificed for our benefit. So they're glamorizing it, but to me, it's another level of disclosure showing, okay, we've got something going on in New York. We have Canada. How many other places in this country and in the world do we have things like this? And I think the Gifted and Talented program has a lot to do with that. And I think a lot of us, I'm an 80s child, but a lot of the 70s and 80s and 90s kids remember these Gifted and Talented programs and going into these rooms and putting these earphones on. And we were supposedly being checked for our hearing, but really there's frequency tones and other things were happening. And I remember getting this fruit punch that people talk about, and I tasted disgusting. And so a lot of us were utilized in these programs in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and our minds were wiped and we don't remember. Do either of you guys have any kind of memories of anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I did they did the hearing test for us too, but I didn't. I just assumed it was normal, but looking back on it now, it's really interesting. And there was other tests that we did too, but it was in the library. They brought us into the library and did that. But I used to get the nosebleeds when I was young at that age, and all the time, and they wouldn't stop, And in fact, the nosebleeds even still occur randomly sometimes, even as an adult, which I find very interesting. And the timing of them is not coincidental. Like it's very interesting how that still works. So we know that we're bombarded with these frequencies every day, and the towers are everywhere, and who knows what else is going on. But as a child, I don't have memory of being brought into any programs like that. But if I was, my mind was wiped, and I just haven't retrieved those memories. But I did experience some of the similar things, like I just explained.
Yeah, I do remember going in and taking the hearing test. And I'll never forget that. I mean, I went to a very, very rural school, like in the country. I'm a country girl, okay, and I grew up on a farm, miles from anywhere. And I was born in the 70s, but I'm an 80s kid too, right? But I remember taking that test, and we had like the school was growing, so they had like trailers, so I went to school in a trailer, literally. And I remember them taking me to like this special trailer by myself to go do these hearing tests with those headphones. But I don't remember ever being in a gifted or talented program. I don't remember. So I don't know. I haven't talked to my mom about it. It's really odd.
You know, I would say that since you were on, it's not a coincidence you were on that Montauk trip. Like, you don't just end up there. If you really like zoom out, you don't just end up on a trip like that unless you're somewhat involved on some level. And you know, there was a program, this computer club in 5th grade that my teacher really liked me in 5th grade. Like, I don't know, I guess I was just one of his favorite students, and he created this computer club. And it was that back when we were still learning the internet and computers and all this stuff. And I didn't sign up for it, and he like got upset that I didn't sign up for it, and basically like laid this guilt trip on me and made me feel like, you know, I should be signing up for this. He said he created the whole program with me in mind and all this stuff, and I had to do this computer program where I had to stay after school, and we would learn how to basically like build a website back then, like early stages of all this stuff and how to navigate the internet. But I just always found that interesting looking back, that I even was like kind of like coerced into that program. I thought that was strange. And that was the same year. Sorry, that was the same year the military came into my classroom and had everybody draw a spaceship, or their version of a spaceship. And the Air Force, the Air Force.
You know what? Oh, I was actually taken to the Huntsville Space Center around the same time they were giving me those tests. Okay. Huntsville, Alabama. Yes, they took us. I took my whole class though, so it wasn't like they were singling me out or anything. I don't think so.
Right.
But they took me to. I did go to Huntsville, Alabama. It was a long drive from our school in northwest Georgia. But I did do that. And Tyler, I also had the nosebleeds. When I was a kid, I was the only person in my whole family that my pillows stayed stained with blood all the time, because I was constantly having nosebleeds at night. It was a nightly thing, it seemed like.
Yeah.
And nosebleeds is what I wanted to talk about tonight, because it's actually quite important, because nosebleeds are there's a reason we have nosebleeds. A lot of times it's due to abduction, but a lot of it's a time travel, or it's interdimensional travel. And so our bodies have a reaction to it. And so the main character, 11, in Stranger Things, why is it that her nose bleeds like that every single time she uses her power? Well, first of all, she is using a lot of her energy, but she is working interdimensionally in between these two worlds. We've got the underworld, which I want to talk about the underworld too, or the upside down world is what they call it. But nosebleeds are significant. I got in a lot of nosebleeds when I was a child, and my daughter used to get them every single day for almost a year. And my son got them at school. And so nothing to freak people out about, but that's something to pay attention to when your children are getting nosebleeds and they're at school.
That's when mine were.
Something could be going on, and that's when my daughter would get them too. Sometimes they can happen later, like an effect that like happens after. But nosebleeds have a lot to do with interdimensional travel and abductions, because you're shifting. It's like a reaction of going time traveling. Your body's having that reaction.
That's super fascinating. You know, my nosebleeds always happen in school, almost always too. But also another reason for the nosebleeds, and I know this to be true from a friend of mine. She lived in an apartment building, and they put the smart meters, like the whole wall of like smart meters, right outside of her son's bedroom window, and he started getting nosebleeds. And she finally connected the dots that they started right when they installed those smart meters. She switched bedrooms with him, and his nosebleed stopped. So there's also something to do with that 5G or that smart, whatever's coming from those smart meters.
Yeah, I mean, it's that frequency too, just like the frequency that Elle has to get herself to in order to fight off these these beings. And the crazy thing is, I want to tell you guys how many times a child has drawn this. I can't speak. This being to me in many different ways and many different colors, that it freaks me out, because that tells me that in Montauk they say that a being came out and that something really did kill a lot of people. And part of Stranger Things is that dimensional tear occurred, and what it is the astral entities that have this hive mind come out, and they attack and loosh off of us. And I got a quote in a session that I wanted to share, and I can't remember what it was this. In an attempt to create a hive-minded consciousness through negative loop cycles, programming, and government projects and mind control, it's all done for them to loosh on us. And so the underworld is very interesting, because the underworld can also be referred to as the upside down world, which is what they call it in the Stranger Things show. And it can also be referred to as a void, because there's lots of versions of the void, but it's really just the fourth dimension. It's just an astral realm. In a lot of shamanics, when you do shamanic journeying, they'll call it the underworld, and it basically is a negative version of our environment, of what the fourth dimension actually looks like. So the children right now, the problem that I'm seeing with a lot of the kids that I'm working with is that they are being tormented by these looking beings, but not exactly the same, that aren't actually physically harming them, but they are getting stuck, getting trapped, just like they did in Stranger Things when they go through those portals and they can't find their way back. They are literally living in the fourth dimension. And that is when the voice to skull technology, or voice of God technology, whatever you want to call it, is amplified. And they're anchoring into suicidal thoughts and high anxiety. And it's really bad right now.
You know what's interesting too? That reminds me of, when you say underworld, that reminds me of Mortal Kombat, the video game when we were kids. I'm sure you guys have heard of it and you know what it is. But
I played it.
I don't think people understand the plot. But if you think about it, it's this sorcerer who basically forces people to fight in the tournament for the fate of the world. And if they lose the fight, then he steals their soul. And then the outcome of the fate of the world is decided in a match, in a tournament that exists in what they call Outworld, which they get to through a portal into another dimension. And they have to fight for the fate of the world in this other dimension, or their souls will get trapped there. Their soul will get trapped there. And this sorcerer was trapping their souls. I just find it very interesting that was like one of the most popular games when we were a kid. And like subliminally, you just don't understand. Like the plot just seems like a cool plot, but that's like actually what's happening, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of disclosure in a lot of the video games, the cartoons. I mean, I have Sherri, you and I have young kids pretty much, and I've raised my son watching like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Spider-Man with the multiverse on both of them, and all the interdimensional lives that they have and stuff. I mean, they've been putting this out for a minute. Okay. But my specialty are monsters, real life monsters. And I go out and I chase these things for fun. And I've been doing it for a long time. And I got to say, there's something going on about, and I know we're talking about the Demogorgon and the underworld. And well, right beside Camp Hero, right across the ocean on a little island is a thing they have it's called Plum Island. Okay, and that's where they do a lot of animal-human hybrid experiments and animal experiments and stuff right across from Camp Hero. Yeah, there's also Brookhaven Labs. Okay, Brookhaven Laboratory is a place where I've been doing a lot of connecting the dots, y'all. And of course, I'm out there chasing dogmen. We have real-life werewolves and dogmen running around all over North America right now, as well as Bigfoots and things like that. But there's a place in particular where I go do some research over in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And there's a place called Oak Ridge National Laboratory over there. And they admittedly have a large ion collider at that location. And that's where we have a huge amount of dogman encounters and Bigfoot sightings and all sorts of weird animals, human hybrids and stuff that are showing up around there. And they have the same exact, it's the Department of Energy. We pulled up all the Department of Energy buildings all over the United States, and one of them is Brookhaven Labs. And if we've kind of assumed at this point that if Oak Ridge Labs has an ion collider, I was told that Brookhaven Labs has one too. And that would be something like, and they work with CERN directly. It's like a Large Hadron Collider, but it's a little smaller, I think. So there's no telling what kind of portals are opening, and I don't know what they're doing, but it's got something to do with potentially what they're talking about on Stranger Things.
No, and I love that you just said that, Jessica, because I think that is one of the things I wanted to talk about is, so I don't want to spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't watched the new season, which this really isn't much of a spoiler alert, but you can see how easy in this new season that these Demogorgons are coming through and creating dimensional tears. So it's a lot simpler, I think, than it has been in previous seasons, unless maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't remember it. But the point of me saying this is that we are seeing evidence of dimensional tears more and more. And I believe that some of the dogmen that you're talking about, Jessica, and some of the negative hybrid beings are coming through these dimensional tears. And I think nefariously, a lot of this is occurring so that we can be tormented. And what the children have been showing me is that there is literally like, imagine a fog machine that we used to have at like parties, like you have the fog machine going on and it's so much fun on Halloween, they have those. It's almost like there's this technology that is emitting this fog machine energy. And it's causing these dimensional tears, and then these beings are coming through. And so more and more shadow beings are coming into our environment, more and more, I wouldn't say Demogorgon beings, but shadow, like lower astral entities are coming through, and they are coming into people's homes. Again, I'm not trying to scare people because we're going to lighten all this up, I promise. But they're coming through the black box technology. So that's how they're getting into the homes, though. The dimensional tears are also occurring with all of the technology that we have in our homes, the phones, the computers, the monitors. My son has a screen like this big to play video games with in his room, against my better judgment. Big screen TVs, all of that technology, they're coming through those as well. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I find it interesting too that you mentioned the fog, because there's been all these pockets of this anomalous fog that doesn't really seem to make sense or seem natural, and just kind of sits there. It doesn't move with the wind and stuff, and which actually happened here a couple of weeks ago in Sedona as well. It kind of settled into the valley, and actually it was real eerie couple of weeks. It definitely felt like they were doing something, but I never connected the dots that they were using that to mask the opening of portals or these dimensional rifts or tears. So, but that doesn't surprise me at all. But then potentially using the black box technology or the TVs as portals, I understood that, but we're constantly reminded here just to close the mirrors, close the portals, close the TVs down. It's just intention, right? You don't really have to live in fear about it, but you can make it part of your daily practice. And sure enough, sometimes if you forget, you might have a bad night, but then you can just clear it, but they'll try, they're going to go after the people who really have no awareness at all that this stuff is happening.
Yeah. And also I'd like to point out too, and I know this is a little dark, but this is very real. There's a lot of witchcraft and people that do rituals and have very dark intentions that are conjuring these entities as well. And I'm having to deal with that when we're out in the field, when I'm out there doing, I'm running through the mountains looking for Bigfoot and stuff. And we're dealing with like backwoods cults. And it's really wild. And it's very dark too, when it comes to places like battlefields, like Civil War battlefields and things like that, like where all this blood was shed. This doesn't have a lot to do with that, but I recently was tasked with a remote viewing target of somewhere in the Czech Republic. I know it's kind of odd, right? But it's called the Huska Castle, and this is a place that had it was just a crack in the ground. We're back to like the 1300s, I believe. The villagers around that area wouldn't go near it because they said that human, like animal hybrids, would crawl out of that thing. And they said there was dark entities that would come out of it. And eventually somebody built a castle around this hole in the ground. And I'm only bringing this up because this is important for people to know. At some point around World War II, the German, what I like to call them the schmozzies, okay, the Germans, because I know we're on YouTube, but the German scientists, they took over this castle and they started working on experimentation on how to harness the power of hell, they said. And this is a real thing that we're talking about governments. We're talking about, governments, Project Paperclip. Where do you think those scientists came after World War II? They came here, right?
Right.
And we have places like Mills Hole in Washington, if you guys are familiar with that. Yep. I'm not saying it's exactly like the Huska Castle hole in the ground, but Mills Hole is very similar in Washington. There was actually another one in Nevada or New Mexico, I think. The government took over that property and seized that land from Mill. And it's a very famous story. He called into Art Bell on Coast to Coast a long time ago to talk about it. And that's how it became known. But I did some remote viewing of that. I was tasked with that by Barry Littleton. He gave my friend Tanya and I both those blind targets. And we were seeing like wormholes and time travel and all stuff you wouldn't think a hole in the ground would consist of. But it's got something to do with all this. I mean, there's like they're probably using it for like secret space programs and stuff.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, going back to Gifted and Talented program, I mean, that's what that really is about. I mean, there's different layers of it. So secret space program, depending on what they need these super soldiers for, whether it's intellect or mind control or telekinesis or whatever their abilities are, everybody's needed. Everyone has some sort of talent that is necessary, which is why I'm so against standardized testing in schools. I don't want my son to take those standardized. I don't want them to know how smart he is. I don't want him to be on any sort of list. I don't want children to be labeled, because what people don't realize is that the government keeps track of the children and their abilities or capabilities or even disabilities for a reason, because they can utilize all of that. And the fog that we were mentioning, Tyler, we had that here in Florida recently, a little bit ago, maybe a month ago or something. And a lot of people got really sick from that. And what I was being told in my sessions from the animals actually is that what they're doing with this fog is that they are attempting to lower our frequency, the capacity, because we are unifying collectively. And the more we unify and come together as a collective, we enhance and we activate each other, right? And the more of us are doing that, and they don't want that. So the way they divide is this fog is supposed to lower our frequency, make us forget, and then the separation occurs. That's why so many people are angry, distorted, pissed off, just like in like the worst possible mood, or depressed, or have high anxiety, because we're much easier to control when we are in this hive-minded consciousness. And that's what Stranger Things is about. All of those lower astral entities are all controlled by one larger entity, and they all have a hive mind. And you can see in Stranger Things that a lot of the children, but even the adults, are mind controlled in the same way. So they're showing us that they have the technology and the capability to do that, to make people up here think a certain way, act a certain way, be depressed, or do whatever it is that they want in their favor. So I feel like, and the reason I'm bringing this up right now and why it's so important is knowledge is power. So the more we talk about this, the more people are aware, we connect the dots, and then we come together and we unify and we say, oh, hell no, we're not letting this, like, I am not consenting to this. This is not happening. And we do what we can through intention and raise our frequency in various different ways, which we can get into, to prevent these dimensional tears from occurring, because that's how they're being created, through our self-doubt, our limiting beliefs, and our fear is really how they're being created. I haven't even been looking at
Oh, my mic was muted. They like to create situations where they're creating chaos in your life, and whenever there's chaos in your life, then you don't have your guard up, right? Your guard is down, and then that's when they can slip in. And the mind control is real. I've been at the receiving end of that, and I know exactly what it's like to have some negative thoughts and looping thoughts and depression and stuff. And really, also, I found that what helps tremendously is parasite cleanses. Like if you cleanse, like the parasites create those thought forms as well. And sometimes it's just as simple as cleaning up your body too, because that's also how they work through you. And I've come to the conclusion that parasites aren't just like these mindless blood sucking parasites. I think they're intelligent beings and if you are infested, like they definitely know what they're doing, and they have an objective to take over your body, right? It's not just, feeding. So I think that's also important to bring up just for anybody who is experiencing thoughts like that, or because if you're infested with parasites and then they start taking over your mind, then the technology really works on you. So that's another layer of this, right?
I've actually explored whether parasites are actual demons. Okay. And I think they are. And to go a step further, a lot of us are aware of like the real parasite, and that's just another parasite that will actually take over your entire consciousness
Right.
of your body. So it is important. It is important to do parasite cleanses and stuff.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well,
It is.
there are energetic parasites too. So there are
Yes.
physical parasites, but then we also have to do the energetic parasite cleanses. And I'm big on those. Taking care of our energy body and our auric field is extremely important. So my favorite thing to do right now, and I'm in Florida, so it's easier to do that, is be out in the sun, to do red light therapy or infrared light therapy, lymphatic drain, and any kind of somatic therapy to calm our nervous system. Right now, their goal is to attack the nervous system, because if our nervous system is attacked, then we are they're more easily able to hijack our mind. And mind control is what this is all about.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Unfortunately, that's the case. But yeah, I just saw, Chastity said resonance. Like it is about frequency too. But you have to have that self-awareness to understand something's going on with you, and then clear that up and then get your frequency to a point where it doesn't affect you. So it's not necessarily easy all the time. And it's a war, spiritual war. And it's gonna be moves and counter moves, and there's gonna be a lot of pushback even when you do try to raise yourself and elevate out of that. And it's not necessarily fun, but you can learn a lot. I mean, humans like to learn the hard way anyway, right? So we sometimes we let things get bad, and then we gotta figure it out. But it's always, there's always a lesson there, and there's a lot of wisdom gained from these experiences. And then, people like us can then now share that knowledge with the audience and other people who are just getting into this that don't really understand the depths of it and the lengths they can go to and what's even possible. Because what you discover is that this stuff like should be impossible based on what we're taught, but it's not. And it's like black magic.
Going back to that magic, all we need are some big bells, y'all. We need some bells.
Yes.
Where'd the bells go, right?
We do.
Let's go find some bells and erect them.
Right. No, the bells, I swear, that is actually a real thing.
No,
And
it really is.
the bells actually can, well, I think they can, ward off evil spirits, demons. There's a movie Troll on Netflix where the only way they can stop them is by ringing the giant bells. Yeah. There you go. Get them out of here.
I use that when I'm working to clear the energy.
Yeah, there you go. Rebel.
They actually they show that as well on Venom, on the Spider-Man movie. I think it's like Venom can't live with like the bells or something. When they start ringing the bells, it destroys him. Okay. And Venom would be like a parasite kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and you know what else came through my sessions is our wind chimes. It has been recommended to me countless times to use wind chimes, put them outside, because they emit a frequency that, so we know that part of the 3D interference is what I like to call it, is to distort and disrupt the music that we use, that they broadcast. Most of it is meant and designed to disharmonize us. So it's at 440 hertz or lower frequencies, or just off just a bit so that we feel awful when we listen to it. It makes us have negative thoughts and things like that. But there are harmonic frequencies, and bells are great for clearing. But wind chimes, the children have been telling me, clear the energy. And the fairy realm actually was the one to recommend that we all have wind chimes in our backyard, and it will harmonize the energy.
That's really interesting. I have two wind chimes. I have one out front, one out back, but the one out back I got locally. It's like hand tuned and all the stuff, and it's beautiful. But I hung it right next to my Wi-Fi. I have Starlink satellite, and I have the whole thing outside. So I hung it next to that to just try to like mitigate those frequencies and stuff. But that was my whole intention behind it. Something was telling me to get this wind chime and hang it up there, and I didn't really understand. You're just validating my intuition, and I think that's interesting.
Yeah, well, I can't take credit for that. That came through a couple sessions, but I really want to get into a fascinating topic real quick because time is flying. I want to talk about mall dreams, and I'm going to pass it over to Jessica because you've done 2 shows on it now. I have been fascinated with mall dreams my whole life because I have had so many mall dreams, and I didn't put it together until I was much older why I was having mall dreams and what they mean and what they're about. And so tell us a little bit about the shows that you've done recently, and let's talk about mall dreams because I'm fascinated by this topic.
Yeah. Mall dreams, I have to give full credit to 2 people who are in your chat right now, Gerald and Jane, Midwest Night Watchers and Chiro Sounds. They came on my show. Gerald is the one who alerted me to mall dreams, or the mall world dreams, and it's from it's from like a Reddit post, and all these people were like coming together on Reddit to discuss how they were all having these dreams of being inside a mall, and it gets so intricate. There are people who have drawn huge maps of mall world, and it's like they'll like get together and like meet at places in their dreams in the mall at Mall World. And I've joked around about, and I've done shows on it. I'm like, all right chat, let's all meet at the food court tonight. Okay. But it's really interesting because why would thousands of people be having the exact same dreams that live all around the world? And it's like mall world is like it's a mall. You're in a mall, but it's not exactly like a busy mall where like there's a whole lot of people in there. They're usually kind of empty. It's a liminal space. Okay, if y'all are familiar with liminal spaces, there are slides. People describe like water slides and water parks inside the malls. They describe food courts and signs for all these shops in the mall that they can't make out what they say, kind of like when you have some AI artwork or something. They describe there being strange escalators that go in circles and they don't go anywhere. It's almost like a fun house kind of in the dream. But all these people are having the same dreams. And it's like, why on earth? Well, some people say there's a collective subconscious. Okay. But like, why the mall world though? Is it because of the, just thinking back of like the good old days of when we all went to the mall, or is there something else? Is there some kind of voice, like you were talking about the voice to skull technology? I'm fully aware that there's some kind of technology that, if you're sitting by your cell phone, how many times have you picked up your cell phone and you were thinking something, you look down, there's an ad for that, but you didn't say it out loud. You know right. What I mean? Mm-hmm. And so some people talk about, going to bed at night, and then I joke around about waking up wanting a McMuffin, or McGriddles or something. Well, they're able to actually go in through our technology and implant things into our dreams now. And that's pretty well known. Okay, so why wouldn't they be putting, and some people are actually connecting mall world dreams to like secret space program as well, for whatever reason. Some people are actually claiming that, maybe they're having meetings at Mall World or something. I mean, I've also discussed about how, Barry's talked about how he's done regressive hypnotherapy sessions with people who claim to have class. Like they go and they've had class, like secret space program classes in these abandoned malls with ETs present and stuff.
Well, Sherry just popped up in the chat. She's frozen for some reason. But I
Can you
guess,
guys hear me if I talk?
yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I don't. I literally can't press any button, and I cannot do anything. So if you guys could hear me, then that's fine. But my whole
Yeah,
computer's frozen.
I can
that's
hear you.
weird. That's weird. We got to do a clearing right now.
It's
Yeah.
probably we started talking about malls, and they didn't like it.
I've had a mall experience as well. I wrote it off as a dream at first, and I came to the conclusion that it wasn't a dream. I actually think it was more of a military abduction, and I wrote about it in my book. But it was an abandoned mall, and there was this creature that was basically on the loose in there, and it could have been a training simulation for all I know. But it was this graphene oxide AI black goo looking spider, and then we were like sent in to go take care of it, right? But it was really interesting that it was a mall, and when I talked about it, of course, a bunch of other people started coming forward. And there's a lot of information that connects the malls to the underground bases, and then also I think is something that I don't hear many people talk about, but Allied Universal is the universal mall security company in America. Basically, every mall uses the same security company. It's called Allied Universal, and they have like a planet they have almost like an aerospace industry logo. And I think it's really interesting. And I've done some digging, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that that is absolutely, in my opinion, a CIA shell company, Allied University or Universal, excuse me. And I think they are uh, dealing with some sort of it's like a temporal agency. Like I would almost argue that they're existing in more than one reality. It's this like security company for these malls, but these malls, I think there's so much more to it. I can't really put my finger on it. It's a lot deeper than I can make sense of. But the mall Allied Universal is definitely playing a role in whatever is going on with this mall world stuff, and even secret space program stuff, and dimensional time travel, teleport. I mean, it's all part of it. And yeah, it's just an interesting connection.
Gerald in the chat, Midwest Night Watcher says that a lot of nuclear plants use them as security as well. That's interesting.
Oh, really? Nuclear?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, they're a shell company for sure. And somebody just put Adjustment Bureau. Yeah. And Adjustment Bureau, there's kind of like these back rooms too, to our reality. If you ever seen that movie. And that was written by Philip K. Dick, who was definitely read into the secret space programs, according to Captain Mark Richards, who was friends with him, which is one of Carrie Cassidy's whistleblowers. And he said that he was read into the programs and signed an NDA, and always told Mark Richards how he regretted signing the NDA because he wanted to talk about it, but he couldn't talk about it. But he was able to put it into his movies, which turned into movies like Total Recall, Minority Report, The Adjustment Bureau, like all of these major hit sci-fi films, and there's some other ones I'm forgetting, but there's definitely a connection there too.
There was also a connection to the back rooms as well, to the mall world. And that's a part of it. People do end up, it's almost like a never ending maze inside the malls where people, you really don't go anywhere.
You ever watch those videos of the back rooms? The endless mall? It's freaky.
Yes. It's like a horrible nightmare. Yes.
Yeah, it would be terrible. Yeah. And there's always like that weird figure that like starts chasing them and stuff. You still with us, Sherri?
I'm here, but you guys obviously can't. You can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm just not meant to be seen. That's okay. You guys can just see my frozen face. I don't mind. But
at least it's not that bad of a. Like it could have been a lot less flattering. It's not.
Well, on my end, it doesn't look very beautiful, but maybe on the internet and the other one, who cares? I don't care about that. But honestly, the thing about the mall dreams is a lot of children have been telling me that they have dreams of being lost. This is the thing. They're being lost in the mall, and they can't find their mom and dad, and they are looking for their friends, and they are wandering around aimlessly, not knowing why they are at the mall, which I find very interesting that I've heard that several times. And so a lot of what I feel is happening is that these malls are screen memories that are occurring while other things, whether it's abductions or whether your mind is being wiped because something else is going on, and we are placed in a dimension, like it's like a dimension, it's like a interdimensional space. I can't think of the word that I want to use right now, like a parallel reality, basically, where we are connected to, and a lot of us go because it's familiar. But it's like an architect created a video game world, like a Minecraft, and you just wander that space, and it's a screen memory, and a lot of children are experiencing it too, which I find is interesting because I thought it was just an adult thing.
You know, somebody just said in the chat, the Florida Mall alien event was a spillover.
Oh my God, yes. I was going to say that. Yes, I literally was just about to say that. I completely 100% agree that that was a bleed through, and that dimension overlapped with this dimension. And that is absolutely how I feel about that. 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was recently a video. I don't know if it's real, but like a leaked video that they confiscated, but you could actually see those tall beings walking around. And I don't know, man, if it's real, like you can't trust anything that you see at all nowadays. But sometimes I get a feeling. I'm like, that could actually be the real deal, what we're looking at. And if that was the case, I mean, I can understand why people freaked out.
When I had Gerald and Jane on my show, who are in your chat right now, Gerald, they actually showed a map. They compared the Mall World map, which all these people have kind of put together on Reddit. You guys go to Reddit and check it out. It's Mall World on Reddit. And you can see the map, and they compare it to the Disney World map, and they look very similar.
Oh, interesting.
Just saying. Yeah.
Well, oh man, this is going to change the subject slightly, but first I'm going to tell this quick mall story, then I'm going to say something else. When I was in high school, I was at the mall with my friend. We used to go. We couldn't really, we weren't even 16 yet, or I wasn't even 16 yet, but he was. He could drive, so we would go to the mall on Saturday and get like Chinese food and just walk around, whatever. And this guy came up and asked us. He goes, "Do you guys both want to make $5?" And we're like, "Okay, sure." And what do we have to do? And he's like, "All you have to do is come watch this movie." Oh shit, we just lost Sherri entirely.
Uh-oh. Maybe she'll be back. Just a sec.
Yeah, let's see
if she can reboot.
She'll probably pop right back on. Well, luckily we didn't lose the whole feed, because that could have it still shows that we're live.
Oh yeah, we're still live.
Okay. So anyway, I'll just keep telling the story, and I wanted Sherri to hear it too, but they invited us. They said, "Do you want to make $5 and free popcorn?" And we said, "Yeah, of course." What do we have to do? All you have to do is come watch this movie trailer. And okay, so he literally walks us into this back room in the mall, and we sit down, and we're the only two people in this room. And they give us a cup of popcorn, and I genuinely, my memory goes blank after that.
Oh my gosh.
I couldn't tell you to save my life.
Yay! I'm back in.
Hey, she's back. All right.
Yay!
Kick me out. How are you gonna kick me out of my own show? That's so weird.
Right.
You just had to reboot, girl.
Right.
You're good.
All right.
So did you hear what I was saying, Sherri?
No.
Okay,
go ahead. Keep going.
I'll just kind of repeat it so you can hear it. So I was at the mall with my friend. You heard that part, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So this guy says, "Do you want to make $5 and some free popcorn?" And we said, "Sure." So he brings us to this back room in the mall, and there's only us two in there and this TV. And we sit down in these two little folding chairs, and he hands us his cups of popcorn, and we have to watch this movie trailer and basically tell him what we think of it. And I genuinely don't have memory after that. I don't remember what movie we watched. I don't remember walking out of there. I don't even remember the rest of the day. Like, it's the craziest thing for me to think about. And I think about it often and try and rack my brain. I'm like, okay, like what happened? What movie trailer? Why don't I have a memory of anything after that? And I just thought that was strange. I've always thought that was strange. And have you ever heard of, what's that ride? I think Thunder Mountain in Disney World, or the one that's like you go through, it's like you're on a boat, and Is it Thunder? I don't know if it's Thunder Mountain.
I'm
I
not
have
Where
no
all, where
idea.
all the animatronics are and stuff, and everything's
Small
kind of,
World?
maybe that's it. It's like a
There's a
small.
small. It sounds like Mall World,
Oh,
doesn't it?
It's a
it's
small
Small
world or
yeah,
World.
something.
where they have the thing that goes down and you supposedly go into a underground thing.
Space Mountain. Space Mountain. Somebody just said, I think. Anyway, there's this whole weird TikTok phenomenon where this family went missing in Space Mountain, and they got stuck in like this other dimension while they were in there. But they had like this park pass that allows them to monitor the people. So it showed that they were still on the ride, but they couldn't find them. But the ride security camera was capturing footage of this family looking like in distress trying to escape, and like it was just like this whole series of photos that they caught, but the family was stuck in this time loop and they couldn't get off the ride. And there's like a whole thing about it, and like you should totally go down that rabbit hole. I mean, it'll freak you out. I think it's a wonderful, I can't think of the name of the ride, but it's the same exhibit in the movie Tomorrowland where they go into another dimension. So there's something going on in that ride in Disneyland, and I wish I had more information about that, but it's worth looking up.
Oh my gosh, that's wild. I've not heard that. You know, when I was a little kid, my parents took me to Disney World one time with my little sister. She was probably 2, and I would have had to been 5, I guess. And the only memory that I have of being there, I have 2 memories. One is spreading some teacups, and the other one was, I don't know if this is a false memory or not. I need to talk to my mom about this, but I feel like I got separated from my family on the bullet train somehow.
Really?
Yeah, I have that memory of like jumping in the train and my family didn't. And so I don't know. I don't know how I'm still, yeah, I have no idea how I'm still alive today for all the things that I've done. I've
Me
done some
too,
dumb stuff.
honestly.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
I
not a
know.
ghost hunter like you, but I don't know how I'm alive sometimes.
I have no clue.
I feel like, there's just so many anomalies happening in our reality and I think that disclosure is coming through a lot of the movies and TV shows. So we obviously don't believe everything we hear and see, but I do really think that there's an attempt right now to awaken us through a lot of these shows right now, and there's so many good ones, and good ones in the sense that like they're really showing us, and I think it's activating people. What do you guys think? Do you think that it's helping people like remember?
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean,
Mhm.
I think there's like a double, like, there's this thing that I know is an official government document called the Continuing Public Acclamation Program. And it's like something where they have to put this stuff out it's like there's an agreement, a treaty, whoever it's with, right? They have to slowly release this stuff in the form of entertainment or however they choose to do it, but they have to do it. There's like a timeline, and eventually they have to, disclose certain aspects of these programs, or even what we're capable of as humans. And I think that's part of what we're seeing. Like it's always been part of the plan, but I think it might be accelerated right now. And I think a lot, it's like, I mean, the Marvel universe in general will just expand your mind if you look at it as a documentary. Like I think I watched a little video the other day where this woman was like, you need to start watching every single movie like it's a documentary and just believe it because they're telling you.
True.
That's
And
true.
you know which one is a documentary, and it scared the bejesus out of me when I was a kid. And to this day, I will not allow. Well, I try not to allow my kids. I'm such a cool mom. I can't say no, but I try not to. There are certain lines I draw, and scary movies is one of those things. But anyways, I won't let them watch Nightmare on Elm Street. And the reason for that is because I swear that is a documentary. And
That shit's
again,
real. Yeah.
it's real, and it scared me so much when I was a kid because I remember I knew it was true. Like at the time watching it as a young girl, I had to have been like 6 years old. I don't know exactly how old I was, but I was under 10. And that is how they torment a lot of the children and adults, is through dream state. through our dream space is how we get attacked and we're most vulnerable. And so the way that I work with a lot of children, because night terrors come from these attacks that are occurring in the dream time, and our physical bodies are there. And Tyler talks a lot about sleep paralysis in his incredible book that I love so much. Just a plug there. And I've had experiences with sleep paralysis as well. And Jessica had that crazy drawing of that one being that came from her floor and scared the crap out of Aramis for like a year.
Oh yeah. Oh, did it?
Of that Grim Reaper that came out. But there are ways to protect ourselves in that dreams time, because of movies like Nightmare on Elm Street they're letting us know, hey, we are attacking you at nighttime. And that's what happened with SIDS. And I know I've said this like a broken record. People are tired of me saying this, but the main cause of SIDS in the 80s was during dream time. Nightmare on Elm Street, they were coming and they were disconnecting and severing the life force energy of the starseeds so that they could not live out their life, because they knew what their grand mission was going to be. So they kicked them out. And then of course, most of them came back through again. But one way we can protect ourselves is to merge with the spirit of an animal when you are sleeping. So with children, I teach them to pick an animal that they feel the most protected by, and it can change. So it could be a wolf, it could be a dragon, it could be a lion, it could be whatever it is that you want. And pretend when you go to bed, you call upon that animal spirit, and then you become that animal spirit, like your shamanic journey. Like when shamans do journeys, they never astral travel in their light body. They always form they connect with the soul of an animal,
right,
to protect them. So I teach children to do the same. So when you're sleeping, you merge with the soul of that wolf or that whatever. And that is you when you are in the dream state. And so that you will not be messed with, and your body is protected, because that version of that wolf is literally next to you in that bed the whole time. So your physical body is protected, as well as your light body is protected. And then we can take it one step further for the younger children. And I tell the parents, buy them a stuffed animal of that animal so they can also hold it and have it, or have a picture on the wall. Now, adults can do that too. It's not just for the kids. But I don't do that exact thing, but I call on the animal kingdom to protect me when I'm sleeping is what I generally do.
All right. I'm going to go buy a wolf stuffed animal now.
Bigfoot is my spirit animal.
Hey, there you go.
I have mine. I have a bunch of them actually right here.
So
I have more.
Of course you do. I have my elephants, they protect me.
So what's interesting about the dream state, the dream warfare is what it actually is. It's dream warfare. Yeah. Unfortunately, I know way too much about this from experiencing it, but then I've also learned a lot more through research. There's a lot more people involved in it than you might think, and a lot more people in these agencies, and even people that are just playing with it for fun. But there's ways to induce the REM state of sleep, lucid dream through it, through taking injecting a very specific type of peptide, which I've learned about. And I know lots of people that do this, unfortunately, and I don't agree with it. But it induces this dream state that you can control, right? And once you're in that state, you can do something that the CIA has a document about called dream walking. And you literally you can walk down a neighborhood into other people's dreams, and you can if each dream is a bubble, you can just penetrate that bubble and infiltrate their dream and interact with that person. Well, the CIA was exploring even killing people that way. And there's literature about this. They would send people in and target people, if not kill them, harass them. And, it's a psionic ability that's absolutely real. And, there's one of the things that before I moved out here in Sedona, so one of the very first things somebody told me about was don't trust your dreams out here. Apparently, this is something that is being experimented with out here. And the children, especially in the local school, are being experimented on with this technology. And these dreams, you can't discern them from reality. and therefore it manipulates every decision you make. And it's one of the scariest things, but it's rampant, and there's a lot of people involved in it. And it's not just these entities, there's just people, regular people that can actually, and you don't even have to be sleeping, you can do it through a deep state of meditation. You can basically, astral project into someone else's dream, but it's completely invasive, it's immoral and unethical. And even just to play with it, that in general is just, it's scary. But there's a lot more, like basically anything you can think of, people are trying and experimenting with. And it's absolutely Nightmare on Elm Street is real, but it's not always a demon, and we have to understand that.
Yeah, it's definitely not always a demon. Some of its frequency is directed energy weapons. This is AI technology, it's extraterrestrial technology. The man in the black hat, that the children always see watching over them in their room, and then they see them in their dreams, and they also see them in their dreams, but they also see them in their room, the shadow beings. All of that is real. And unfortunately, in my generation at least, and the older generations, I think we were told just to stop making it up and suck it up and, go to bed. But, now I'm telling parents, believe your children, that they're telling you that this is real. They're not making it up. How can all these kids be drawing the same things and showing me in sessions when they live across the world from each other? How are they drawing the same thing?
Right.
If they're seeing it in a cartoon or something.
Just like Mall World, the collective subconscious is what they say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super fascinating. And going back to a comment I read, somebody pointed out that in Mortal Kombat, the hidden character is a shape-shifting reptilian, which is also just an interesting side note. But the Mall World stuff, I wonder if this is a simulated reality that people are but who's simulating it, right? Like, is it done through the collective and it's like somehow been created? Like, I want to know the origins of it, I guess, is what I'm trying to understand, and why the abandoned mall.
I mean, my personal opinion based on the sessions that I have, again, I'm not a researcher, and this is just my gathering of the majority of the information that has come through for me, is that it is a nefarious architectural screen memory type of dimensional space that they place it because it's familiar, and it's not for our highest good, and that's what I've gotten. I could be wrong. There could be other versions of it. There could be other timelines, but I don't have a good positive feeling about it.
Something that actually stood out to me with the Mall World there are tornadoes outside and everywhere. There's always, like, when people draw, like do concept art of it or draw the maps, there's tornadoes outside. I don't know what that represents or what the symbolism of that is, but lots of tornadoes.
It just seems like an engineered thing. It's like somebody created, like quite literally Sims, the video game, like somebody created this environment that has storms so you can't escape, or something like that.
Yeah, like a Minecraft world. Exactly.
Right, or like Alligator Alcatraz.
Yeah.
Can't escape.
Well, is there anything, I know we're past the hour. I'm sure there's so much more we could talk about. I wanted to talk about bleed throughs and dimensional convergence of timelines. I think maybe we can get into that real quick before we end for the night. I feel like a lot of the collective chaos is occurring right now because many people are having junction points of timelines that are overlapping. So timelines are actually parallel, but because the veil is becoming very thin, we are actually overlapping with traumas that might have occurred at the exact same moment in a parallel timeline. And a lot of people are having psychotic episodes as a result of something happening in another timeline that's a similar time frame as right now. And it's completely irrational. So the mental wellness and mental illness has risen significantly. And I think that has a lot to do with these timeline bleed throughs. So I don't know if you guys are seeing that, but there's so many bleed throughs occurring.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's what my book is about. The bleed throughs happen all the time, especially if you understand that they're bleed through and not random. But it's interesting, whenever I had that near death experience, I'll call it, where I was poisoned with that gummy and, almost I stopped breathing. And I had Leah Ray look into that when I had a session. And it was really the first session that she's ever had where timeline information came up, and she found that fascinating. But she said that whenever you almost die, or a catastrophic or some sort of major event happens to you on any timeline, any version of yourself, it affects all versions of yourself. And she was like, it was so interesting watching her in real time, because she was like seeing, okay, in this timeline, I stopped breathing, but in another timeline, I was 10 years old and I crashed my bike. In another timeline, I got in a car wreck, like something. And she goes, another one, I might have just tripped on the sidewalk, but something, it was like this tripping hazard for all versions of me in all timelines all at once. So if I'm poisoned in this timeline and stop breathing, so another version of me in another timeline is going to experience something, but they'll not understand why, that it's actually bleed through from something that happened to me here, and vice versa. So it's a really interesting concept.
Well, you're so right. But the crazy thing about it is, and why so many people are going psychotic about it, is that there's nothing actually happening in this timeline to indicate a trauma always. It's just an overlap in the time matrix. So they're having like phantom pain, or they get really, really sick, or like mentally they are just not in a sound space, or they have like a manic episode because of something happening someplace else. So nothing actually happens here, and they're not understanding why they're having this manic episode, but in another timeline, it's happening, or other timelines that you're mentioning. So it gets quite complicated.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's all very real. And Maureen Saint Germain talks about even like moving objects from one timeline to another. And like I've been watching videos where like this guy's vape pen, it's like the security footage, and this girl's like, hey, can I hit your vape pen? And he's like, sure. And he's like, where is it? And then it literally drops out of thin air and falls onto the table in front of them both. And like they freak out, but it was there and it wasn't, and it came back. So what's happening there? Like, I don't even know if I quite understand how that's happening, but if we're moving objects from one dimension or timeline to the other and then back, like it's like this weird convergence, like you said. I don't know.
Well, there's also, I just watched a video the other day, and some of this could all be set up, and it could be, people trying to get clicks and views, right. But there was a person who was trying their best to drive on the highway to get close up to this old like white Crown Victoria that was like a reused, repurposed police car, and they said, I just saw my sister driving in her car on the highway, and I'm trying to pull up next to her because I swear it's her, but she died like 5 years ago. And they pulled up next to her and had their camera out and were filming this girl driving this car. And they said, this is my sister. This is my sister. And then they showed a picture of their sister beside that person that was driving that car, and it was like the same person. And I've been watching videos of that, of people seeing like their parent out at the grocery store, but their parent had died 5 years ago or 3 years ago. And it's just really odd. I don't know. Maybe it's just a trend and people are making it up, or maybe not.
Do you have something to say to that, Sherri?
No, go ahead.
I find that very interesting. Back whenever I wrote about this in my book too, that Navy whistleblower that was trying to recruit me into that program, he constantly told me about doppelgangers. He said we all have them, but basically a system is set up in place so we would never actually run into ourselves living in another country or whatever the case may be. Wow. But I did, whenever I was in Australia, I saw two people that I knew for a fact was somebody I knew in St. Louis back at home. In fact, one of them, I'll just say, was Alex Bloom's wife, Victoria. If anybody knows who that is, it was her. Like I saw her, and like, but it wasn't her. It was like a doppelganger doppelganger of her who had no awareness of Victoria, but it was like this spitting image. And then another one was working in a hardware store, Johann Fritz, that SSP whistleblower that we interviewed. And I'm like, and this is the time I'm being targeted. The whole program thing is happening, and there's just all this stuff. And I'm running into these people in Australia that look like mirror images of people I know back in the States, but they're different identities. It's either a clone, a doppelganger. There's something going on there. But obviously, those people will probably never encounter themselves because, how often are you? It's probably somehow set up where you'll never make a trip. Something will happen. You'll never make it on that trip where the other version of you is, right? I don't know.
I think Sherry's mom is my doppelganger, actually. Right,
Oh
Sherry?
my God. I need a if I had a
that
picture
wild?
ready, I would put her up. You remind me of my mom so much.
Tyler, it really freaked me out when she showed me a picture of her mom. I was like, "That's me." Wait,
Oh.
are you sure that's not me?
It's like you. It's crazy.
That's
I want to
crazy.
share. I want to share something really quickly to it that has to do with Tyler, and I'm circling back to what I think is happening too with that pen dropping and all of this stuff is we are becoming a lot more multidimensional, interdimensional, and multidimensional, and so we are exhibiting more of a capacity to shift our dimensions at will or maybe subconsciously and not realizing it. So we're having a lot of these experiences where like things are just missing. And we have a joke in my house that like if we can't find something, which is all the time, we're like, oh, it went to Narnia. Like my cup will be there and then I'll go to the bathroom, come back and it's like not on the table where I left it. And my son will be like, oh, mom, it's just in Narnia with my sock or whatever, But I think interdimensionally, like there's a lot of time traveling occurring. And I want to share something crazy that happened. And I shared this with Tyler.
That's right.
As an example. So in Journey to Truth, we get these, the conferences, we get these bracelets. My daughter still has hers. She wears it every day. And those little, rubber bracelets. And when I came back from the last conference this last year that I spoke at, I placed it in my bathroom on like a little ledge where I have like perfumes and stuff on the window. And I just put it there, like I'm not going to wear it. I mean, no offense, but I'm not going to wear it. I just put it there as like a momentum, right? A little momentum. And it was there for probably a week or so. And then one morning I go into my closet in a completely different area of my room in a walk-in closet. And it's in the center of my, like, you couldn't miss it. It was right in my jewelry dish, right there placed, like in the center, like right in the middle. And I was like, what in the fuck? Like, how did this get here? And I asked my daughter, because my daughter loves to move my stuff. I said, Aramis, did you take my bracelet? She goes, no, mom, I have mine on right here. And I was like, how did it get from the bathroom to right here? Like, this is super creepy because I mean, it was like literally right in the center where my jewelry is and my rings and like the stuff I see every day. So I reached out to Tyler. I was like, are you time traveling, trying to get my attention? And did you move that bracelet to my bathroom to get my attention? Now, the craziest part is, this is the craziest part of the story. I left it there. I went on with my life. I come back the next day and it's back where it originally was. And I did not put it back. Wow. It found its way back to its original location. And I think that's when I called Tyler. I was like, are you fucking with me?
Right. Well, so it makes you wonder if you shifted realities or the bracelet did.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Or you time traveled and you were messing
or I did that too. Yeah. This also reminds me of a few things. I had an email from this woman one time and she was like, hey, it was great talking to you the other day, blah, blah, blah. We can do that interview whenever. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, you're kidding, right? And we're back and forth. And it turns out she is adamant that she saw me at a conference in LA and she had a full-on conversation with me in the elevator, and enough to where she emailed me to follow up on this interview that we set up, but I was never in LA. And she was just blown away. She was like, I literally talked to you on the elevator. Like, and the second thing that happened is I was in junior high and I was riding with my friend, and there was this book laying in the middle of the road, and he like slammed on the brakes and he jumped. Like, who gets out to pick up, like, you just drive over it, right? Well, he pulled over and goes and grabs this book, and it's an old high school yearbook from the high school I went to, Melville High School, but from like the 70s or 80s or way earlier, right? And we're just flipping through it, and there's this kid. His name was, I remember, I still have the yearbook. His name was Matt Pike, and it looked exactly like me. Like, it freaked me out. I'm like, that's me. Like, that is literally me in this book. And like the fact that I ended up with that book, and that my friend like grabbed it, and like, and I like showed everyone that picture, and like even my mom was like, what? You know, it looked like the junior high version of me. Like, it was just crazy. So anyway, there was this weird stuff like that that's happened through my life, and it just makes you wonder.
Everything makes you wonder.
Me too.
Right.
Well, I want to end on a positive note, because I don't want anyone here to leave in fear, because that was not the intention. This was supposed to be fun. So you can always, with intention, because our intention is a superpower of ours that they've made us think that we don't have, and they indoctrinated it out of us when we were children. We are powerful, and I teach children that they are their own superheroes, and we can do so many things just through our intention, through visualization. And so to block the black box technology in your home, you do not need to go to every single mirror and every single phone and every single device. All you have to do is state your intention that you do not consent to any of the technology that is not of your highest good within your home, and no active portals that are not in alignment with you or your family's highest good. And you literally put that intention. I don't consent to it, because they don't. If they feel like we inadvertently consent by buying the equipment and using it. And if we don't know, too bad for us, right? Like, that's how they think. So if we say, I'm going to use this computer because I'm using it for work, or I'm going to watch my show on this TV, I don't consent to the technology. I do not consent to mirror portals. Call on the animal kingdom every single day. Tell them to migrate around your home, on all dimensions, time and space, in all layers, above, below, around, in all layers, all the time, 24/7, and they will be there. All types of animals, all interdimensional species. I have Bigfoot in my backyard. I even have a sign that my house is protected by Bigfoot, and he protects the woods behind me. And I call upon that, and your belief is everything. So if you believe, it is true. And that's the thing. They don't want us to believe. They want adults who have lost the belief. And that's the beautiful thing about children, is the innocence and the imagination that they have, that they don't have the blocks that a lot of us adults do. But we have the power. We always have. And we can reclaim that power very easily through our intention. So do not consent to any of it. And be careful about your mindset. What are you focusing your energy on? What are you watching? Are you watching Nightmare on Elm Street? Are you calling that energy into your home? What are you doing with your time? And that's the last thing I'm going to say. And I want to, however else you guys want to add, if you want to add anything else.
Well, somebody just said, just unplug the darn thing before you go to sleep works also. I don't know if that works. It's not necessarily the electricity they're using, is it?
So that's actually a great question. Years ago, I was told in a session you can unplug it and it doesn't work. And then I was told that's not true. So I just do it through intention. You just
right.
You dismantle the technology with your intention. I don't think unplugging it works.
Right.
Or yeah, I don't know that it does anything.
Well, but unplugging it is the intention, so it might. Like if
true. That is absolutely true. If that's your intention.
Yeah.
Our intention is the most powerful part.
Right. Yeah, there's lots happening. If you want to talk, and on a positive note, I definitely, I've been seeing, I never see this. It hardly ever happens. But the other day, I literally closed my eyes and I'm watching a Sasquatch walk around through the woods. And I was told Jack's Canyon. It's a trail by my house where I actually found the print. I took a picture of it. And I saw him like near horses, and there's horses there. And it was like I was observing them. It was more of a silhouette, but I was observing them. And I haven't been there yet physically to go explore. But I wake up the next morning. That was before bed. And I wake up the next morning and my dad sends me this video about these Sasquatch tracks. The energy has been coming back, right? And I definitely think, like, I don't know, like, we all want to have that physical sighting, right? But when I bought this house, or I moved into this house here in Sedona, there was all kinds of Sasquatch synchronicities. So it's been ramping up for me. And I wouldn't even be surprised if I'm on the like cusp of about to actually have a sighting and or interaction in some way capacity. I think that would be cool. But there's good things happening too. There's a lot of positive interdimensional beings here assisting with us, and there's craft showing up in the skies. There's all these anomalous things that are also good, and it's a sign of change that we're moving. The planet is literally ascending into a higher frequency. So I think all these like fogs and these dimensional rifts, and even their heavy chemtrailing that they've been doing lately, is once again that last ditch effort of desperation, almost like they feel like they have to double down right now because they're losing grip. But it's not necessarily going to work. They can delay it, I think, and they can cause some havoc, wreak some havoc. But ultimately, like we are ascending into quite literally a frequency where they're just not going to be able to exist alongside of us for much longer. And I think we have that to keep in mind and look forward to.
Absolutely. That underworld is not going to be able to maintain the frequency of where we're going. So it's not that it will cease to exist. It will cease to coexist with us, because we will reach that frequency where we're no longer in resonance with one another. And there's so many positive things happening right now. The children are showing me so many amazing things coming. I'm seeing a lot of new jobs. I'm seeing a lot of new paradigms being built. I'm seeing a lot of new industries coming, where these 20s and 30-year-old kids that have no idea what they want to do with their life, they're starting to show me what they're going to be doing. So there's a lot of really exciting things coming. There's a lot of healing coming. There's so much positivity that it's really about our mindset and remaining as positive as possible. Lastly, the one technique you can do is visualize your own. Remember, our life force energy is the most powerful. We don't have to necessarily call upon other beings to help us or use crystals and this sort of thing. Those are great in addition, but we should get comfortable with our own power. And if we visualize our light as a ball of energy in our solar plexus, and we focus on that every single morning, and we activate it and we visualize it getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and next thing you know, it's a basketball and it's outside of our body and it's pulsing and it's vibrating, and next thing you know, like it's a sphere and we're within it, and now our toroidal field is so expansive, it's so bright. And then one thing I'm teaching children is to make the crystal, their sphere almost like pointy, like these, I don't know if you guys can tell, but like the crystal, so that instead of a sphere of golden light or whatever light you're in, make it pointy and sharp and scare these entities away through your frequency. But also it's not soft and cuddly. It's like hard and pointy and scary. And you reclaim your power so that these beings are afraid of you, so that you are no longer afraid of them. And that works for adults as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, that reminds me of when I used to help teach. I used to teach self-defense classes to women. I ran an agency for women for the state of Georgia for like 20 years. And I remember the guys that would teach it with me, they're like, we're not learning defense, we're teaching offense. Okay, it's good to know how to defend yourself, but you need to know how to fight too. Okay, you got to know how to fight, y'all, and to hold that frequency, okay, and don't let anybody bring you down. And I know I do. Listen, I go out and I go look for monsters for fun. I really do. That's what I do on the weekends, and whenever I get a chance, I'm out having up close encounters with dogmen and Bigfoot and all that kind of stuff out there. And if I can do it, you guys, trust me, I'm not recommending any of y'all do that. Okay,
Right.
I'm not recommending that, but I go out there with with pure intentions, with an open heart, and I love it, and it's fun. I come back and use humor in everything you do, like I do, y'all. And
Right.
And I know I talk about some really dark stuff, and we really do. We shine light on a lot of darkness because there's been a lot of darkness lately.
Right.
And it's important that we expose it, we shine a light on it, and we heal it.
Mhm.
And don't live in fear. Okay, don't
No.
live in fear.
Gotta be the crusader.
Yeah.
That's Sylvester Stallone did an interview, and he was trying to explain how Rocky is like this Christian movie, and the movie starts off on Jesus. Like the first scene is is on Jesus, and it's this old church that was turned into a boxing ring. Anyway, it pans down on him, and he said that's supposed to like indicate and show you that like he's a chosen one, and he's like been appointed for this journey, right? And the guy interviewing him kind of laughs, and he's like, he goes, "What do you?" He goes, "You got to be kidding me! How can getting into a ring and pummeling somebody be a Christian thing?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know about you, but I've been to church, and it's a lot of talk, but how many people are actually taking action?" He's like, "Eventually, you got to become a crusader. Who do you think the Crusaders were? Like somebody's got to go fight the real fight, and that's what Rocky is supposed to symbolize." But it's true. Like we can talk about this stuff, but there's people out there actually battling, and we can literally not that you want to like invoke that fear and like invite war, but we're here, we're in the middle of it. So like, yeah, become so elevate in such a frequency to where they're scared of you, and you can just turn the tables on them, and I think that's absolutely possible.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to do this show. It's to, like I said, knowledge is power. The more we know how to dissolve, dismantle, and disrupt the interference coming through. And I will tell you, some of these children that I work with are so incredibly powerful that the technology isn't even working on them anymore. So we should clap our hands, pat ourselves on the back that we have reached a point in our evolution that we are capable of bringing in frequencies so high in these younger children that our bodies can even hold that frequency, that the technology doesn't even work on them. So,
right. This brings up one last point, which is proof to me, absolute proof that there's a change on the horizon. Over in the Middle East, 50 mosques have recently shut down because people stopped going to church, and they now have found Jesus and they believe in Jesus. And 50 mosques, that's hundreds of people, thousands of people. I don't know the number, but that's an actual fact. And if there's ever an indication that things are changing, that's it. Because we recently went to Egypt and we got to tour one of these mosques, and it looks like it was built by giants. It was built by giants, but it didn't have a good feeling. It was more of like this Anunnaki vibe and all this stuff. And the whole group is full of like channelers and psychics and empaths and intuitives, and no one really got a good feeling in there because there is it's like quite literally that negative dogmatic religion, but it's being dismantled, and some sort of like we talk about that rapture that recently happened, but what if it was like the dismantling of this frequency that was keeping people under that mind control, and now they're breaking free and able to have a spiritual awakening over in that area of the world where they weren't able to before because of whatever technology or just frequency overlay false matrix was in place. So if that's being dismantled, I mean, that's a great sign.
Yeah, I agree. There's so many things that we can focus on that are positive as opposed to all the negative stuff that they're trying to bombard us with to give us to keep us in fear. That we can focus our energy on. Exactly, that is such a good point. We've even reached that point where our collective consciousness is uniting and shifting. So we're no longer a hive-minded negative consciousness. We are shifting into a unified, higher density of consciousness where we are more collective, working in unity, but also individual souls on our own individual journeys. Yet we are not buying into the illusion anymore because the illusion is breaking down, and like little babies, they're not happy about it, and they are throwing everything at us. But as long as these children keep continuing to come in, and I have business, and I have these sessions, then that's always my like knowing that things are okay. If that stops happening and you guys don't see me online anymore, then that's not a good sign. But as long as these children continue to come in and be born, they're only here because things are getting better and better, and we can hold higher and higher frequencies. And to me, that's my gauge. So yeah, that's how I look at it.
That's wonderful.
Jessica, I believe that Sasquatch is your spirit animal because I think I've counted 10 Sasquatch on camera behind you.
I know, there's so many.
I have more. They're everywhere, y'all. You can't even see. I mean, I literally have Bigfoot everywhere.
That's funny.
I have Bigfoot jewelry. I have magnets, stickers, pins, you name it.
That's
My life,
amazing.
I never saw
like
myself
elephants in my
being
house.
surrounded by Bigfoot like this as an adult, y'all. I don't know what happened.
Well, in my house, I have like 100 elephants all over the place. It's embarrassing. My kids get embarrassed because they're like, "Mom, like seriously, stop." So I'm not allowed to buy any more elephants. But anyways,
Now I'm gonna mail you one for Christmas now.
okay.
just to make-
I just
Get
got
more
a
elephants.
client of mine just sent me one a couple days ago, and I was like, I got another one.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
And just so everybody knows, Sherri Diband is in the USA. You're gonna make fun of my
I
name
don't know
earlier.
why it says that, by the way. I did not put that there.
Sherri Diband USA.
I think something's messing with us, honestly. I don't know what's going on. But I
It
got
does
kicked
say
out.
USA.
I
I just
know,
noticed it.
It was not
That
like
is
that
weird.
before. Yeah. Maybe we switched timelines. Who knows? Maybe we're all dreaming right now. I have no idea.
Tyler's not me anymore.
No, I
What
changed
me?
it. Yeah.
Okay.
We changed timelines. Yeah. After Sherri froze and came back, we're on a new
noticed.
timeline.
I know, right? Who knows? Well, thank you for joining me this evening. It was a lot of fun. I had a great time. I hope everyone watching enjoyed it, had a good laugh. No one leave in fear. This should have been uplifting and knowledgeable, and that was the whole intention. So thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for watching. Any last words from you guys?
No, just thanks for inviting me, and this was fun and great talking with you. Both.
Yeah, thank you for having me too. This is awesome. I had a great time. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Have a good night. Talk to you all soon.
Good night.
Bye, y'all.